put it in there, and then it shows me how many of each token that they have and the US dollar amount. And, I just kind of keep an eye on that to see like if anything is worth looking into even more. I'm not doing that for like with any malicious intent, of course. It's more just me making sure that like I want to know what's going on and I need to keep things in check for my own peace of mind. And I've done that with micro cap projects where there's just, maybe a few million or less in the project, maybe even a couple 100,000, but it seems really interesting to me. Small caps, mid caps, or even large caps.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the VeVe Vantage Podcast. Today, Mr. V will be sharing with us a very creative idea to combine both MCP and OUP that he got from a community member. He also shares some very important and useful tools when doing due diligence on other crypto projects outside of VeVe and OMI in case you want to diversify your portfolio. And last but not least, we'll also discuss how we are doing paper trades to prepare for the VeVeVerse. Let's get to it.
I was browsing through, not Twitter, but X today. There was this one person, I want to make sure I give credit to him.
Also,
Sean.
can you say his name and then his Twitter handles too? Because sometimes they're different. Okay.
Yes, of course. So his X handle is at Sean _Hansel, SHAUN_HASEL. So he posted this. To me, it makes sense for OMI reward seasons to line up with drop season. If true, we started season 6 in May, so we wouldn't see season 0 start until with seasons lasting approximately. However, season 0 could be less time, and then season 1 kick off to. So what we're on season 6 right now, and he's thinking that we'll start the season 7 and it makes a lot of sense to like when you're going to start a new program like master collector program with utility for the points that we've been accumulating however long. I think that makes sense for as a launch date. What do you think?
Wait, so can you elaborate that again, please? Basically,
Okay.
we have different seasons with VeVe, right? So Sean's point is to kickstart the OMI utility program simultaneously as the new season of VeVe, which is going to be sometime in November.
Right. Yeah. Whenever they finish out the season, they're about to start something new, then maybe this is not I'm not speaking on behalf of the Akomi team or VeVe or anything like that. It's just, what kind of makes sense, what kind of falls into place naturally. And what he was thinking is that we may as well, if we're going to start something new, a utility program or integrating OMI, the platform, why not do it with the start of a new season? Because we know clearly, like they make it a point to let us know when a season is ending and what the next so like what's the last collectible of the season, what's the first collectible.
I think that makes sense because now they don't call it OMI utility program by itself anymore. They call it more like the master collector program or like a VeVe loyalty program. So I think that makes sense to have them both start at the same time because then they can combine the benefits and the utilities and the requirements that you would need from both programs for you to accumulate points and OMI rewards too.
Yes. And this is not me or Sean, I'm sure. This is not our attempt to build any hype around it or to create any suspense in anticipation of the next season and thinking that like, oh, because these guys were talking about it on the podcast or we saw this on Twitter, it's a real thing, or we can hold them to it. No, that's not the point of me sharing what Sean was saying. I was just saying, all I'm saying is that it makes sense. And when you look at the big picture, why not align multiple markers in a new program with other things that people are familiar with, right? So there's a flow, there's a steady flow with how things.
Yeah. And I think that makes it easier for them too. And hypothetically, the new season is in November. That's not that far away, They still have maybe 2.5 months to build some utilities for VeVe? Yeah, so let's wait and see.
So this past week or so, I've kind of circled back to what I used to do. And what I used to do was I used to spend a lot of time checking out details about different projects in the crypto space. And among those details would be like identifying the top holders of different projects and the tokens. So I would try and keep an eye out for how heavy some people may be how heavily invested some people may be. So for example, there may be, just an example, maybe 10 people or 20 people who have the majority of the supply of a token. And that could really screw some people over if they buy into that project because that's new money coming in. And as the price goes up, because, if they're buying up the supplies on however many exchanges it's available, it would cause the price to go up. And then those people who were invested early on could, sell at, whenever they would choose to, so long as the liquidity was there. So what I would end up doing is, one, I would identify how big were the wallets for that particular project. Two, I would monitor how big the buy orders and sell orders would be.
Mm.
And then three, I would check out the transactions because you don't only have just buys and sells. You have transfers of the tokens between wallets. And that, that could take you down a deep rabbit hole and you could be looking into that for a really long time. And I'm not an expert in that area. Like I don't know how to write scripts to be able to narrow down ranges and identify and just clearly lay out everything. But I did find that I needed some polishing up to do. And as I'm hoping that in the next year or two things recover for all of the markets, but there's no guarantee of that. But anyways, I don't want to wait until things are going well to start getting ready and start polishing up, right? Because I think we've all been there before where, let's say, a really great job opportunity becomes available, say because of your network. Maybe you have a friend who works for a company or a friend of a friend, and they know somebody who has a job opening at their company. Well, maybe there are some certifications you need, or you have to meet certain criteria. And because you didn't take care of those things ahead of time, and you knew that it could have been a possibility, because you didn't do it ahead of time, when the job opportunity came up, it's already too late because it would take 2 to 3 weeks to knock out the certification. And then you have to wait another week or two to get the certification processed or and the other.
And also, especially like during a crypto bull run or like a VeVe bull run, everything looks right. You see it goes up like 50%, 10, 20, 50%, 100% every single day. And you think, wow, that is the next big thing right there. So that happens to every single collectible that pumps and every single coin that pumps, right?
It's easy to look like a genius.
Yeah.
When everything's like, and that's like something that if it looks too good, chances are it probably is too good. And I don't want to get caught off guard.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When you look at the founders allocation and the unlock periods and the circulating supplies, what are the typical red flags that you think people should be considering when they invest into a project?
If you can't find the information about the token unlock period, coin or token unlock periods, so say for example, if a company has an initial coin offering period and people buy at that time, or early investors buy into the company, if you can't find the information as to when they're allowed to sell, I wouldn't consider buying into that, because then they could dump on you at any point. So I would just be very careful about that. But if there is no, but if they are very transparent and they do, and there's no locking period, then things could sell off at any point. So if things are going really well, people are probably going to be taking profits. Like it kind of be dumb not to,
Mm-hmm.
just to be able to diversify a little. I would say that if if things look a little sketchy, like if there's a lot of bouncing back and forth between wallets that you're not familiar, that you can't pinpoint what's going on, something fishy may be going on. It also helps to track the social pages as well. So like say for example, if you're on Twitter and you use the dollar symbol and then you write the token
Mm-hmm.
abbreviation, you could see how many people are posting about a token, about project, excuse me, about the project, and you could kind of see like, is this like a pump and dump kind of thing, or is there, or there are some solid investors backing the project? What are their affiliate? What's their affiliation? How maybe you can find out how much they invested in the company, and things like that. If you don't see much activity going on and the price is moving up and down like crazy and there are very few people in the project, then I probably stay away from that. And I wouldn't even consider putting money into something that I don't understand, right? So like maybe the metaverse becomes a big thing across several different platforms. Well, do you really care about metaverses? Do you hope to engage in them or with them? If you do, then that's cool. Then you're invested emotionally and you do some research. That's cool. But if you have no interest, why bother? Like there's something for everybody. Like if you want a supply chain token, right?
Or gaming token.
Yeah, like supply chain, you have VeChain. For gaming, you have like that's the thing. I'm not really big on gaming, but I do know that there's this one token, one company called Oasis, OASYS, and they have, I think, Square Enix, Sega, and a few other companies, AAA gaming companies that are trying to crowdfund and have a separate department work in that space or in this space and experiment with a few things and see what they can get going, right? But they don't have anything ready to go. And it's at least several years. And they like allow staking and things like that. So if you're not interested in something, I wouldn't touch it because you're not going to be motivated to
Right.
learn about it and then you're not as invested. Those are just like a few things like at the very least I would consider.
That's a really good point because, for example, when I invest into VeVe and OMI, I do care a lot about it and I'm in it, right? Because I'm not just looking at the pump posts from random probably bot accounts on Twitter. I'm actually talking to you. I'm talking to people where we just interviewed David, right? And we've watched all the interviews with David, Dan, and the team. We talked to different people who put in different levels of money investing into the app. We talked to people who have moved on from VeVe. We've talked to people who are just getting into VeVe. We've talked to people who get into VeVe, but for different purposes, maybe like specimen collectors or quantity or OMI people or whatever. So we kind of have all the angles covered in terms of how we understand this particular project. In the past, I have invested in some other tokens, but because I didn't understand anything about them, I ended up either forgetting about them or I lost a lot of money simply because I was focusing more on the hype rather than the foundation of things. So I think you brought up some really good points there.
Yeah. And I will say this too. Make sure like if you anyone who's listening, if you do decide to get into crypto for the first time, make sure that you have several wallets set up so that you don't have everything in one wallet in case it gets compromised. Things happen. We all make mistakes.
What are some websites or resources or tools that you use to look at the wallet? I know you mentioned in our chat a couple of times. Maybe you can tell people and guide them through those tools so they can do it themselves too.
Yeah, anything that's on top of Ethereum, you could check out Etherscan, ETHERSCAN. You could check out Etherscan. You could also check out Dex Tools, DEX Tools. There's an app for that that's very helpful. I just kind of like keep it to those two.
What
Maybe
was
there's
the one that you put in a wallet and it shows the sales and buy activities?
oh
It was the one that you mentioned to me and Steve-O in our group chat.
oh right. Okay. Well, so Etherscan and Dex Tools, you can monitor like how many holders there are of a token, who the top wallets are. You can monitor who's buying or who's buying and who's selling, not by name, but by wallet address,
Hmm.
as well as how many transactions with that token they've done from start to finish using that wallet, that particular wallet. And then this other resource that I use is called Zerion, Zerion, and you can actually watch the activity of a particular wallet that may not be your own. So you could plug in your own wallet address in there, but you can also create a watch list and monitor activity or like prices going up or down, the supply, the quantity of a particular token that somebody may be buying. Like say, for example, if I notice that something fishy is going on, I may put in the wallet address of that, suspicious account, of that suspicious wallet, put it in there, and then it shows me how many of each token that they have and the US dollar amount. And, I just kind of keep an eye on that to see like if anything is worth looking into even more. Not that I'm not doing that for like with any malicious intent, of course. It's more just me making sure that like I want to know what's going on and I need to keep things in check for my own peace of mind. And I've done that with micro cap projects
Hmm.
where there's just, maybe a few million or less in the project, maybe even a couple 100,000, but it seems really interesting to me. Small caps, mid caps, or even large caps.
Right. So this is a kind of like a dumb question, but what if I am a fishy guy and I came up with this token, right? And you see some sketchy movement in my wallet. If what if I were to move my tokens to like a cold storage wallet? Would that show up on the transaction list?
Good question. I haven't been able to decipher that.
Mm,
I'm not there yet. That is a question that I do have, but it should be reflected whether or not it's on an whether or not you store it on an exchange, right? Like,
yeah.
for example, if you were using KuCoin or I don't know what's available now, Coinbase, if you
Mm,
have everything on their wallets, on their platforms, if you put it on a cold storage, to be honest, I don't know if I don't think it would show any differently, like because it still exists, right? But
yeah.
I don't think it's removed from the circulating supply,
It's
to
just
my
another
knowledge.
wallet address, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
But I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't want to give out any false information.
mm,
So I don't quite know just yet. But that's something that again, and it's a valid question, it's a great question, but it's kind of part of my continuing education
yeah.
in the space. And I think it's important. And that's definitely one of those things that are on my list.
Yeah. Maybe you can share more content as you refresh your memories on these because I have zero knowledge on how these blockchain data works. And I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in getting those information too, because if you invest into some small cap tokens, just a few movements of some big wallets can really affect the price. And if people can understand that and can understand that, I don't know, I'm just throwing out some random numbers, but like let's just say like 75% of the circulating supply is owned by 10 wallets, then this is a pretty, like you mentioned, like top heavy coin. And any movement from those 10 wallets can significantly affect the price.
Absolutely. And it's not a good feeling. Like I'll be honest, I've bought into projects where there were maybe 10 wallets that had a huge amount
Mm?
of tokens in them, and I've seen the price just plummet. Not completely get rugged, but just like plummet like 50% in a matter of minutes of buying a token. But like again, it's part of me riding those waves, experiencing those emotions, and using it with funds that are not going to affect me, right? Because I just need to know what it looked like, what my actions could cause other people to do, and and learn how things go.
Yeah. Okay.
Not nothing too fancy, nothing too complicated. It's just part of my the tuition I'm paying so that when the bull market does come down the road, I am prepared. And that's the most important thing for me today. It's what can I do to position myself to be prepared for when things do start moving in a positive direction.
Hey guys, just a quick message. Every week I, Mr. V, work over 20 hours to bring you the most non-BS VV content. English is my second language, and there were nights we recorded until 1 a.m. My brain stopped processing and I naturally spoke Vietnamese to him, and it got pretty weird. But that's just how dedicated we are to this podcast. In return, we ask you to enter a gentleman agreement. We will continue working until 1 a.m. for you, but we ask you to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating, and tweet at us to tell us what you think, because those comments will ultimately help us to refine the content just for you. That's it. That's all you need to do. Let's get back to it. And then you also mentioned that you have not been doing much market activities on VeVe, and you've been observing. So let's talk about that.
Sure. I've all I've been doing is admiring people buying up some nice collectibles, seeing people get excited about loading up items, comics, collectibles for the VeVeVerse, and I'm just like telling myself that's great. I mean, I'm happy for them to be that excited, and I'm very proud to say that like I'm noticing that many more people are not going too crazy as well, right? Because just because people are buying up things doesn't mean that they're overdoing it, have too much exposure or whatever, because everyone's in different financial positions. So that's been great seeing people adjust to the market, to the demand, and people are going after what they think would make sense for them down the road. And for myself, a number of different things like switching up careers, taking care of family, kind of like slowing things down because I was way too when I do things, I'm all in, right? Like when I learn a new skill, I want to get even better. And okay, what's the next step? What's the next thing I could do? And I definitely have my phases.
I can tell that you are preparing for it because you've been, talking to me and some other folks chat about, whether you should get, whether maybe this is not your intention, but it sounds like you are doing some paper trades so that you can prepare to build your portfolio when you're ready to enter the market again. Like I remember you were asking like whether it's better to get maybe like 2 vaults or 1 secret rare Spider-Man or something like that, right?
Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, I was looking at 4 Waltz or 2 secret rare Spideys.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I go? Because normally, like before, I would sell those like higher priced items so that I can focus on a different approach to collecting. And I've done that. I've checked that box off, and now I'm trying to see, okay, do I continue this trend, or do I go after collectibles that I don't have yet and just disregard the mint numbers, or do I use those resources in other areas, maybe crypto, maybe things outside of crypto and digital collectibles and things like that. At the end of the day, I'm going to do what I think makes sense for me and my family and with whatever resources I have. But it's good to hear other perspectives, and having gone through the cycle at least once. So like between 2021 to now, we've rode that wave way up high and pretty down low, right? Especially if
Yeah.
you were buying things at the all-time high. So that helped me reflect a little bit more, keeping myself distracted with other projects. I'm not in terms of like NFTs or digital collectibles, but just like more like different crypto projects and polishing up on some skills that I think are very salient to the space is very important for me. And I just don't want to get caught off guard. So like I'm sharing some ideas of what I may be trying to do in the next couple of months here, but I don't want to just stay in the same lane, so to speak, and have blinders on and just do the same thing forever.
I think one thing to keep in mind is I think you should consider the VeVeVerse as a factor too. For example, like you were talking about maybe whether you should get whether it's better to get 4 Volt or 2 Secret Spider-Man. And this is not a financial advice, it's just the way I think about it. It's like, so Volt has I think like a 3400 editions.
4,000.
Oh, okay, 4300.
33.
Right.
But
And Secret Spider-Man,
that.
yes, and then Spider-Man has like 1,000. Is that correct? Like the secret rare.
Yes.
So I feel like if you were to walk around the VeVeVerse and look at different people's homes, you will see 4 homes with Walt and Mickey Mouse for every 1 home of with the secret rare Spider-Man. So that's why I, both and Steve-O mentioned to you that we think it's better to get the 2 Secret Rare Spider-Man just because of like that scarcity value. Because if you walk around the neighborhood and you see different houses having the same decoration, then it's pretty boring, right? But then there's this one house in a block that has that one thing that is scarce that the majority of the neighborhood don't have. And certainly it makes it desirable. And, when you look around in the VeVeVerse, that Secret Spider-Man is also animated too. So it's gonna be pretty cool to look at. And because it is scarce, not many people have it. So I think it will catch more attention. I'm not saying that the partner statue is kind of lame or anything. Like I don't have either. I would love to have, at least a partner statue, but I'm just saying with that regards to the comparison that you are thinking about. In the past, we think about, okay, well, there are 2 first appearances. This is the historical price. Walt has gone up to 50,000. Secret Spider-Man have gone up to 100,000. Now the price of Walt is, I don't know, 3,000, and Secret Spider-Man, 6, 7, 8,000. But then now it's also that social currency of having it in your VeVeVerse home and having people coming over and see it and seeing your neighbors having the same thing, but you have this thing that only way less people have. It's just another way to think about it.
Yeah. And not to mention that it was OMI Daily Burn. He broke down Dr. Profit's wallet.
Oh yeah.
And because it's already out there, I don't feel bad sharing this. But like I saw that Dr. P has like maybe almost 80 secret rare Spideys.
Yeah.
Just under 400 Waltz. And this is as of a couple months ago. I don't know if there's been any other buying going on with those. So that means like almost 10% of each, like 8 to 10% of each of those collectible supplies gone. So there's even fewer of those collectibles available for purchase. And yeah, I don't know. I do not own either. And of course, there are many, 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 many other collectibles that I don't own that I would like to get, but I have time.
Well, you used to own one of them, so is you getting it back?
Yeah, that's and I don't regret having done what I did because I was able to make some really awesome moves that I'm very pleased with, and I wouldn't have changed that. But yeah, there's time.
That is it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have enjoyed the episode today, and if you have, Remember that gentleman agreement? We will continue working until 1 a.m. just for you. But in return, we ask you to subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on the actionable and valuable insights, everything VeVe and OMI related. Don't forget to give us a rating and tweet at us to let us know what you think about the podcast so that we can refine the content better just for you. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again next time. Peace.